coming to church for me on Sundays is not always to be full of joy and happiness. Sometimes it's for me to get a word that I know the service is for me and that the Lord is giving me. I don't understand everything in the Bible. I may personally not even agree with everything in it, but I know that it is right, and that's what the Lord says is true. And so therefore, I have to believe it, receive it, and what parts in my life that are struggles for me and are sins for me, I have to look to the Lord to help me to change those. I'm Sarah Jennings. I am the Director of Guest Services.
My name is Keishel Jennings, and I'm a door greeter.
I'm Liz, and this is Shirley, and we are your coffee ladies.
I'm Doug Campbell, and I get to see the smiling faces every Sunday morning at the front door.
I'm Christy Arwood, and I help in the VIP room. The VIP room is for the very important people, the newcomers, the first timers, and we just want to give them a little background on this is us.
I'm Tara Hallcox, and I serve in the care team.
I'm Clint Hallcox, I'm team leader of parking.
Hi, I'm Jesse Flint, and I'm a leader in kid check.
Hi, I'm Doug Flint, and I serve in parking.
But the first time I came to LifeSpring was when y'all were still at Brown's. And I had a lot of the younger people come to me and say, you need to go check this church out, because so many of the people that Tyler had ran around with had been getting saved here.
Friendliness of the people and the inclusion of, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you've done, what you look like, how you dress. You can wear the same thing this Sunday and next Sunday, and it doesn't matter.
I went into the church, and before I even got in the church, I mean, there was people coming to you and opening your doors and telling you where to park, and we're so happy you're here, we're so glad to see you, how are you? I mean, they made you feel important. They made you feel like, I felt no judgment. I felt nobody looking down on me. What is she wearing? Who does she think she is coming here? And I felt none of that stuff.
Well, I had been asked to come on numerous occasions from Sarah and her family, especially from my grandson Isaac. I used to go to church before that all the time. I was in a lot of positions at my former church, but we gotten out of the habit. And my husband never really was he was one of those Easter Christmas people. But we decided to go one Sunday, and we virtually did not miss after that. My husband loved it. He loved the atmosphere. He felt very comfortable, and so did I. But my grandson Isaac, I would say, is the primary reason for my first visit, because he hounded me.
You know, the service itself was different. And yes, over in Brown, definitely noisy. I guess what really jumped out at me and got me was the young people's programs. I guess it was the youth, but looking at the kindergarten up through 4th grade or whatever, was a tremendous number of kids that were coming. And that was probably for a lot of them the first time they'd ever gone to a church. And a lot of those are now in high school and so forth. So I guess that excitement of being able to expose people to who Jesus is. And that's where we came from.
The thing that really drew us here was how welcome we were by everybody, and it starts with everybody serving. The people that stand out front, opening the doors, the people parking, the people doing kid check, just everybody. It takes a lot of people to get that welcoming feeling, and it's more of a family, and it gets you closer connected, and it makes you feel a part of the church. You know, so if you're on the outside looking in, get involved and stay involved. You know, say people serve people, and that's what we're meant to do.
You feel safe, you've met your kids feel safe, or I feel safe with my kids being around all these people, and they make you feel like family, so it's something I love. You know, when we first started coming, I remember walking in the doors, and everybody, I remember Leanne specifically, and several other ladies. I remember Christy Pippin, I remember the door greeters, everybody was smiling, and I'm thinking, like, wait a few weeks, they're going to be glaring at me. Like, and it never happened. Like, they were real, they were sincere. And just feeling that for almost the first time in my life, really, not feeling people's judgment. It was just, it was really nice. Like, moving around, we've been to several churches. We've lived in South Carolina and different places, and having kids and no family around, and going to places where, you know, you didn't have that help. It was hindering on a family or on parents with kids. And when you're in kids' care, or when you're being welcomed by somebody that's checking on your child, when you didn't have that, you know how much that means. Or when we first came here and we had somebody to check in on 4 of our kids, and we didn't have to think about what the next step was, or if we were going to keep them quiet in service. They had rooms that they could learn on their level, even the littlest ones. Or you have, like, when there's a mother's room, so you can go in there and still listen to the word and not be overwhelmed by, you know, having to leave and not hear the message that Sunday. So for me, it's just giving what they gave me when I first came here.
My personal story is one of the first times coming to this sanctuary, Jason Smith was the door greeter in front of the sanctuary. And he gave me a big handshake. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Where do you work? And I told him. He said, well, I used to work there. And I haven't been able to get rid of him since.
I've been going since Brown's. Keishel was on the shift he was working at the time. He couldn't come. So we were going to church, and we loved the church we were at. To be quite honest, it was mainly us trying to keep the kids happy because they had to sit in service with us, and so we spent more times giving snacks and crayons and shh, be still, be quiet, don't move, and wasn't really getting a lot out of the service. And I heard about LifeSpring and started going because we could still go on Sunday mornings at our other church, but then I could attend at night. And then I was like, you know, babe, I really want you to come. And so they switched his schedule, and I think he got to come 1 or 2 times, and then LifeSpring switched their schedule, and Keishel couldn't come again. Oh, no. But that's, at the time, we were like, this is the devil. But I kept going, and eventually his schedule got changed again, and so we started attending as a family, and just fell in love with it. Like most people, from the very beginning, we felt very loved and welcomed. And if I'm being completely honest, I've been to several churches. Some I have felt very welcomed, and some not. Some, when I say very welcomed, some I have felt very welcomed. However, maybe not my children, or, you know, maybe not us as a family have been welcomed. So it's great to be able to walk in a place and everybody, you know, just feels welcomed, and everybody's glad you're here. I know that's one of the things I love about being at guest services, but at being at Kid Check and welcoming people in. I love people, I love to talk, and I just love being able to see us all come in, because if we're being honest, we all know we're a mess. We all know we have issues. We all know that there's things we're trying to work on, and that we are praying for the Lord to show us intently how to change. That should be our goal as Christians. That should be one of the reasons we want to come to church.
Everything was just smooth. I mean, this is where they go, this is what they do, and you know, and you felt comfortable. And then I walked in and I saw that big screen and I thought, and what is this all about? You know? And then the worship starts, and for me, that is my thing. Music is my thing. And that's how I worship. And they started singing, and probably the first time in 10 years, my heart opened up, and I looked up, and I saw Tyler's face right over the screen, and he was smiling. Welcome home. And I knew I was where I was supposed to be. And like you, I've been here just about every Sunday since.
In reading through the Acts 6, where they chose the 7 people to serve, what stood out to you in Scripture?
I mean, what stood out to me was the verse 3 where he said, brothers and sisters, choose 7 among you. And it's kind of like you guys leading back to starting the church. Once he got it all together in a plan and he said, we are a church, now choose among you who's going to do this. He's laid the plan out, and you guys have prayed and you've chosen, kind of like the lots when they throw them out to sea. You know, it's see who's going to go where, see who's going to take care of this. John's taking care of, Pastor John's taking care of this, so he needs you guys to go do this. Lindsay's taking care of this, so she needs you guys to go do this. I believe it's kind of like the church, how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to go out and ease the burden on you guys so you guys can do what you need to do, and we can be the hands and the feet to go greet people at doors and VIP and give coffee, give them when they're thirsty, to get something to drink, or Sarah with the kids check in, let them see a smiling face.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's an example of service.
How so?
Well, to begin with, they recognized they had a problem, and they had 2 different, within the same, to me it seemed like within the same group, there was 2 different groups. And instead of bantering and going on and on and on about what we're going to do about this, they came together, talked about it, came up with a decision, and followed it through. And that's how service is. You decide what you need and who needs to do it, and then you figure out who's going to do it. The first half is all about cooperation and getting the job done.
When I was reading in Acts chapter 6, the thing that stood out for me most is for the church to grow, you had to have the people to help it grow. You had to have people to serve in different areas, and not just in the prayer, worship part of it. There was, the distribution of the bread, and the people to help feed other people. And it's the same that we do now, is to run a church, one person can't run it by themselves.
I'm going to read verse 7 because that's what stood out to me the most. So God's message continued to spread. The number of believers greatly increased in Jerusalem, and many of the Jewish priests were converted too. And in that verse, how the message continued to spread, I just felt like it can't spread and grow without the people to serve. So when we serve, that gives the leaders, the preachers, the pastors more time to do their job when there's more hands to serve, and it just keeps going and growing.
The thing that stood out to me was they were having the same problems like Moses was having with, you have the leaders and they expected the leaders to do all the little kind of smaller duties to help the church grow and to help the needs of the church. And I think that's something that we could use here is, people to help serve and help meet the needs of all the members of our church.
in this story, there is differences and some confusion, but there is also coming together and loving and trying to make it work. And that's what I feel like as the church, we need to strive to do daily.
Amen on that. Thank you. That's a good word. One of our core values is saved people serve people. So restate that core value, and what does that mean?
I think that save people, serve people means that we should take any opportunity within the church and even outside of the walls of the church to be able to serve people, whether they come to our church or not, whether just in our community, random people, strangers even, that we meet on a daily basis. It is our obligation to help serve, and in any way, that could be great or small. He just asks us to serve from our hearts, and I feel like you can do that in many ways. Each and every day, you can find an opportunity to serve.
You've got to open up and understand what God is showing you. And I think that's why we're all here serving. Is we are trying to understand what He wants us to do.
Well, I think save people, serve people means that, if you're doing God's will, then you're going to serve where you're needed, where you're called to be. It's not always your decision. You just go and, save people, serve people, and every job is equal in its own way and is important in its own way. So just get involved.
And it doesn't stop there. It's like a ripple. Save people, serve people, and those served people will one day serve people, and it just is like a ripple effect, and it's just amazing to watch that go.
And even then, it's not just about serving. You get something back in return. Getting to meet new people, or just whatever it is.
You can take two people can talk to two more people can talk to two more people, and you start spreading the word by accumulating the number of people that you come in contact with, regardless whether you say 10 or 15 minutes with them, or if you say 5 minutes with them. And then that goes on to more people. And my short version is it takes two, but it multiplies.
All minds are almost always changed on a one-on-one. It's not changed by a big crowd and big speeches usually. That's a seed. But minds are changed for lots of different things. Whenever you talk one-on-one with somebody, and then they say, oh, she might be right about that. Let me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Shirley Liz said, it's a call to be involved in the movement.
How it can be almost helpful because life gets so busy and people asking you to help out here or serve there, it makes you make the time for helping people, and you realize how much you need that even yourself. Like, whereas I'd be like, oh, I'm so busy, but somebody can say, hey, can you do this or can you do that? And it's like, man, I needed that myself because I wouldn't have made the time for it. So I'd be like, well, I'm already doing this or I'm already doing that. And then when you step out and you serve in areas that help other people, you realize how much you yourself needed help also.
Through serving, I met other members of the parking team, or just, greeting people that come into church, getting to meet them beforehand, instead of just getting in here, sitting down, watching, and leaving. So actually getting to meet people and getting to make connections with fellow members of our church that I probably otherwise would have made.
I've seen through serving a lot of different neat things take place. Ladies I've spoke to in the care room because of life change taking place and being excited about being saved and seeing how excited people in the church, members in the church are to serve. They have wanted to serve themselves where they've never had before. And so they'll come up to me like what can I do? I want to be a part of this. And so seeing people want to get so involved, it's just really nice to see.
When I talk about the church, I'm not talking about the building.
I'm talking about what's happening in my heart.
I need church. I need it on the Wednesday nights with the kids. I need it on Sunday mornings in the services. I need it for my children. I need it for our family to go through this life of chaos and confusion, and to keep me from not conforming to it, but trying to do daily what the Lord would want me to do to get up and to be better. Because we're all going to fall. We do it daily, and by the grace of God and His mercies every day, we can press on.
All right, so here's the second section. It's about Stephen. Now, Stephen, who was one of those that they chose, full of grace and power, was performing great wonders and signs among the people. Opposition arose, however, from some members of the freedmen's synagogue. They began to argue with Stephen, but they were unable to stand up against his wisdom and the spirit by whom he was speaking. Then they secretly persuaded some men to say, "We heard him speaking blasphemous words against Moses and God." They stirred up the people, the elders and the scribes, and so they came, seized him, and took him to the Sanhedrin. All who were sitting in the Sanhedrin looked intently at him and saw that his face was like the face of an angel. And most know, at the end of that, Stephen was killed. He was the first Christian martyr. So hearing that, I would love to know, like, what stood out to you in that story, and it may have zero to do with church. This is sort of the point of time where if you would love to hear you share a little bit of your personal story, if you're okay with that and feel led to do that. But what stood out? So what? What's that story even mean to you?
I think mine will go back to last week, intently looking at Stephen, how they were looking at this guy's, bashing, and all of a sudden they intently looked at Stephen for an answer, and they wanted to get to the bottom of it right then with him. And when they gazed at him, they saw the face of an angel.
The one person that was really out there and really had the Spirit and really was doing what God was asking him to do, that's when the devil jumps on you. If the devil is not bothering you, you're not doing what you're being asked to do.
We were going through our own family stuff, and we just moved here. I think we'd only been here a couple times, and just after worship, there was no holding it back. Usually I would have been like really uncomfortable, but I just remember the comfort I felt by the people that surrounded me, and that I could just open up my heart and just spill whatever I had to say, and they were just there for me. And then even weeks to come, how people would reach out and they would text me and just be there for us and let us know that if we needed help or somebody to talk to, they were there. When I started on care team, I'd be in there, talking to people who wanted to share their stories, and then something would come in just to see how everything was going, and towards the end, I would get to share something maybe that was bothering me that I needed to talk about, and there I'd be in there crying, because and I felt safe. I didn't feel like the next day they were going to be talking about me around town. I knew they were going to keep it to themselves, and they told me if I ever needed them that, I could give them a call or they'd be there.
Difficult roads leads to beautiful destinations. And I was out of church for a long time before Tyler passed away. But it was like, he said at the very last verse, and they looked at him and they saw the face of an angel. I'm Christy Arwood. I am the middle child of 3. I was born to a family that loved me and had me in church. I got saved when I was little in Vacation Bible School, went up with everyone else, and rocked on that way for a while until I was about 11 and started questioning. I got married really young. I was 15 when I got married, and I started having my babies really young. Tyler was my first. And then Tierra is my middle child, and Taryn was my baby. Me and Randy were married, well, go back. I took the kids to church. I went to church. I tried to live right in front of my kids, but Randy never came with me. I don't know how to explain it. He had a real big thing about hypocrites. It was placed in my brain, I guess, that I would just rather not go to church than for somebody to think that I was a hypocrite. While Randy was in jail, Tyler started getting into trouble. And the next thing I knew, he was gone. I always preached to Tyler from the very beginning that God chose him to be the big brother for a reason. And I said, you've got to take care of your sisters. God knew you could do this, and this is what your job is to make sure that they stay where they're supposed to stay. It was just me and the kids, basically, all the time. So Tyler was not only my son, he was everything, you know. And when he passed away, I didn't know he did as much as he did to keep the girls where they were supposed to stay. And I lost them. And the next thing I knew, I didn't have any children. And, Tierra and Taryn weren't where Tyler was at, but they were in prison. They had kids, and, Brooklyn was 6 weeks old when Taryn went to prison, and she's 8 now. It was like I had a chance. I had a do-over. I had a boy, 2 girls, about the same age difference. I had a chance to do it again. And we was getting it together. I was coming to church, the kids was coming to church. I still didn't have Randy here with me, but he was supporting me so much more than he was before. And then he got sick. And then the next thing I knew, he was gone. And we had been married for 36 years. He was my whole life. I had been a Borif a lot longer than I was even in Isbel. This church has saved me more times than you can imagine. When my brother got killed in a house fire, y'all let me have his service here. And I think it was probably the first service. Mm-hmm. And because we got to do it here, it was so comfortable for my sister, and it also pleased my mom because it was in a church, but it wasn't a church, so Kim was comfortable here. And Randy was comfortable here. And he saw just through that service what different place this is. And he said, when something happens to me, he said, I want you to do for me what y'all did for Keith. And we did. And we went through that with Keith. We went through that with Randy. And then my youngest one, my middle one, Brody, my grandson, he got really, 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 really sick 2 years ago. And we about lost him. And we lost Tyler to aspiration. And Brody was on a breathing machine and on all that stuff in the hospital. We were in the hospital for almost a month. Mm.
I remember that.
He had, when he would wake up, he would just start pulling everything. It was like he was drowning, you know, and he pulled his feeding tube out and it went into his lungs, and they started to call the code blue, and it stat and everything was happening, and all I could think of was, not again. God, you cannot take this boy from me. Not this way. Not again. And he didn't. He didn't. Brody is such a different little boy now. Brody was always quiet and didn't have much to say and was not real affectionate, and now we'll be standing in the parking lot or something and he'll walk up beside me and hold my hand, or he'll put his arm around me, or he'll kiss me on the cheek, or he'll get up in the morning and he'll come in there and he'll hug me and he'll say, I love you. And I never got any of that from him before. And I know that God's working in him. I know God's there. And when all that was happening with Brody, Melanie stayed with me the whole time. The whole time. That woman is a prayer warrior.
Amen.
Oh my goodness. And she told me she saw a light in me. She don't know what that did for me. She don't know what kind of boost that was to my ego, that people could see that in me, that people could see that I was getting my shine back. God has taken from me, but they weren't mine to begin with. He was only letting me borrow them for my happiness. And he's blessed me over and over and over. I mean, he gave me y'all. And y'all bless me every day. Tony hasn't been in church in years and years and years and years. And he's coming with me. Because he knows what it's done for me. And it's everything that I didn't get the first time around, I'm getting now. My blessings are abundant. My cup runneth over. And I'm eager to share it with people.
If there's one final thought you could leave people with, what would that be? Amen.